I'm Josiah Leuenberger, Director of the Nashville Institute for Faith and Work. And today we are so pleased to have Beth Reitmeyer with us for another installation of My Faith and Work Stories. Really, what this series is about is sharing the stories of members of the NIFW community. You're an alum of the Gotham Fellowship, and I love the way that you're able to express how God has gifted you and called you. Beth is a visual artist here in the Nashville community and alum of the Gotham Fellowship, our ministry where we really seek to equip people to live out their faith in Jesus in their everyday work settings. And so, Beth, we're so grateful for your willingness to share with us some of your own story, serving God and others through your own work as an artist, and the way that that interacts with your faith in Christ. And so, can I ask you, how did you develop such a love for art and creating, and what does your work as a visual artist really entail?
I feel like a lot of artists just start making things as kids. So, I mean, I just would make, and my parents would just bring me and give me stuff. We didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't have a lot of toys, so it's just like I would make my toys kind of a thing out of whatever I had.
Wow.
And like as I've gotten older, I feel like that's one way that we can show that we're creatures of God, is like God created and we also create. We make things. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just one of those things that I do like I breathe.
That's awesome. Well, I know that your faith in Christ is a vital piece of who you are, and that really gives you a unique perspective on the way you approach your work as an artist. Can you share with us some of your own faith journey and how that influences the way that you approach your work?
So my parents are both Christians. They met while working at the Navigators. So I was actually born at my first house was a castle because the Navigators at Glen Erie, they have a castle. So I just kind of feel like my faith journey, I really love the magic and the joy that the part of the faith that I can't quite explain, but just makes me happy. Like I love Jesus, and that should make me happy.
You know what? I think I'm connecting some dots here because I see that joy in your faith and the way that you talk about life and meaning. And the fact that you grew up in a castle shows me where some of that creativity comes from.
Well, I mean, I only lived there for 2 years. And then, I began my other adventures out in the world. Moved to Nebraska, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So finally ended up in the South. So, yeah.
Cool.
Anyway.
Well, Beth, I can't say that I've ever met another visual artist. Maybe that shows how uncultured I am. But I would love to hear from you about some of the highs and lows of your work. What are some of the things that give you real life and joy in what you do? And then what are some of the challenges? I'm sure it's not all glamorous and being at art shows that are exciting and far off destinations, but can you share with us some of that journey?
Yeah, that part's fun, going to far off destinations and meeting people. I think art helps me. Art helps me understand the world and others and myself. And so that's the framework that I view the world through. And it also gives me this opportunity to talk with other people. I really like the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, self-control. Like there's no law. Like no one will argue with us. Should there be more kindness in the world? They're not going to argue or make a law about that. And everybody wants to be loved. And so as I make things, I'm not making them to stoke my ego or that kind of thing. Like I'm thinking about other people and what they need and how we can build a community through the objects. So my hope is, as I build these landscape environments that people can sit in and talk to each other in, and maybe even I'll give them a prompt in order to think about, what do you wish for in your life? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your struggles? Are there people in your life that should be talked about and remembered, but you don't know how?
Yes.
This is the place where you can talk about someone that you've lost and not feel weird. A lot of times people feel weird about that.
Something I've noticed about a lot of the pieces that you create is that there's a meaning behind what you see. And can you just share with us about some of the pieces that you've brought today and your inspiration behind them?
So these I'm working on making a bunch of different gems. And so I'm thinking about people holding them and having conversations about what they treasure, especially in coming out of social distancing and the pandemic. A lot of people have had time to think about what they value, and I think this is a good time for us to talk about it and find common ground in that. The stars, this one I brought. This is one my niece made for me. And I do these. They're little pillows that people can take, and they can make a wish and put it in the pocket. And my niece wrote this one, and it says, "I wish that Aunt Beth will be successful in art." She signed it, and I just think it's hilarious. That's her wish for me. She wrote that when she was in the 3rd grade. And so I also like that, and that, if you're 8, you're not hesitant to participate. Art can be for people who are not adults. And so, the hospitality part is important, that everyone feels welcome. If they want to participate, they can. If they want to touch things, they can. I'm not going to yell at them. If it breaks, we'll figure it out. But normally it doesn't break. So, I want people to sit and to talk and to realize what's important. But you need a little bit of help, and
yes,
this is the help.
It's fascinating. I think that when we're kids, we often talk about creativity and imagination and wonder. But as we age, oftentimes those of us who are dealing with the stressors of adult life can lose sight of those things. But I don't believe that by any means God desires for that aspect of who He's made us to be something that's limited to childhood.
Right.
Would you share just a few thoughts from your own experience, from your own personal conviction around creativity and imagination? How do you see that playing a role in the work that God calls each of us to, even if we're in areas of work that are not necessarily ones where people might say, wow, I'm just inspired by wonder?
Right. Yeah, I think it's just going out in the world and being willing to take a risk and being willing to fail, like whatever that means. I teach a lot of art too, so these will be out in the world, and I will do workshops with people. And I teach a lot of different age groups. So I'm teaching college right now, and a lot of my college students will say things like, "I can't make this. This is not my thing." And I'm like, "Yet you have to actually do it and experience it." But some of it, with the workshops, it's not about how good that final object is. It's about the process of the making it and being with people.
Yes.
It's like singing in church. I sing in church. If I'm at home, my nephew tells me not to sing Happy Birthday because my voice is not even my instrument. Do not make any sort of musical sound. There's this context. So I sing not because I'm good. I'm singing because of the process. So I think art, I feel like a lot of times people stop making art in the 5th grade. They stop taking it in school. And so, that's where they are. And then they get frustrated as adults that they draw like a 5th grader. It's not about your skill. It's not all about that.
I tend to gravitate towards doing things that I'm comfortable with and feel like I'm proficient at, but oftentimes things give me great joy when I try something new, and I learn and grow as a result of that whole process.
Yeah. Even my students, they're like, "Well, what if I do this? What will happen?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? We've wasted a little bit of time, and now we know what doesn't work, But then the best thing that could happen is we discover something new about the world or about how something works. And then, that moment when it happens, and everybody's face lights up because it's like, yes,
It's a beautiful feeling.
or even when they're in the landscape, these landscapes that I build, and they forget where they are for a moment, and they're happy.
What gives you the most joy in the art pieces that you aspire to create?
I really like going out and talking with people and putting them up and just sitting and having the conversations. Because usually I'm present, and so I have to figure out what my role is and how to make people feel comfortable that I'm there. Because people are not necessarily, they don't expect to see me there. And then they'll start talking about the meaning of the work, and then I'll kind of like sneak in
I love it.
and join in the conversation and
They didn't
ask
know
them
they were visiting
questions, and then they
interactive
realize,
displays.
yeah. So that, like that moment when they realize, like even this summer, I got to do this installation by the ocean where people were drawing on these lighted forms about the pandemic and their hopes and their dreams and their realizations. And a lot of the community, like they were sitting there and they realized, like, we love our community. We're really actually lucky to live here. And if I had to spend the pandemic anywhere, spending it by the ocean in Connecticut is pretty good.
Of all options available.
Of all options.
Not bad.
And so like I feel like they walked away with like this appreciation for their lives and a thankfulness for it. So
To be able to play a role in someone coming to those sort of realizations is really meaningful.
yeah.
I'm interested for you as you think about the work that you've been called to, and ultimately for each of us, we have a time and a season that we get to serve and invest our heart and our energy, our passion and gifts in a meaningful way. When it's all said and done for you in your career, what are some of the things that you hope people will take away, and what are some of the things that you hope you'll be able to walk away from your career finding satisfaction in?
I think there's just this strange collection of stories of how the work has meant something to different people. Or, or my niece being like, I want you to succeed at 8 years old. Or people who are like, I wish the world was a better place, and what I can do in it is this right now. And it seems very simple and not important, but I'm looking at all of these contributions and thoughts from the community, and I can see that together we actually can make this world a better place, and we can love people.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating. How for you, using your gifts to express your own heart creatively, God finds a way to weave that into other people's stories and give them an opportunity to express some of their own longings and desires. And in people's faith journey, none of that is wasted by God.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just connections. Like, a lot of this is just what God is doing, and it's helping people realize what's already going on and growing. But they need the time to be able to realize that's run. So I want to give them that time.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your story, Beth. Along with your niece, we also wish you to succeed in your work as an artist, and I have seen that is happening in a really meaningful way, and we're grateful for you, and you're communicating that story with us here with the Nashville Institute for Faith and Work. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.